All right. So, hey there again. Hey, everyone. It's our second group Zoom call. It's August 27th, and I'm excited to have Siri and Occam and Jen here with me. Not sure if, oh, now I can see Jen's face. All right. So Siri was just explaining, well, we haven't had any contact in a couple years, I guess, other than on Facebook, but yeah, you're one to always find the silver lining and things, which is what we were just talking about, but it's what I love about you. So yeah, she brings a lot of joy around her to everyone. So I really appreciate that about you. And you and your husband own a deli restaurant, right?
Yeah, we took over ownership of some local deli chains that are in the lower level of office buildings. So we're an amenity for the building and also do catering. And that was my husband's main business, not my main business, but now I do it as well. And that's a nice, financial stay. I mean, now that people are in office buildings, and, I've got a gazillion other things going as well.
So Siri and I were both trained in neurolinguistic programming and Ericksonian hypnotherapy. Did you train in hypnotherapy also? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think that's where we met each other. It was in that class.
Yes, exactly. So are you still practicing? Are you still coaching?
I still do the coaching. I relabeled myself along the way as a journey coach, kind of a whatever somebody's journey is. I can do the health stuff, but it's mostly the mind and just getting in a more peaceful place and guiding growth-minded people to a more peaceful path wherever they want to go. And just knowing the hypnotherapy was helpful. It wasn't my main mojo. It wasn't like my piece that I was going to hold on to, but it was really helpful to know what it is so that I could get deeper with myself or with anybody else if I needed to or it was called for.
There you go.
It was a good piece of education, I thought.
Yes, definitely was. Definitely was. Yeah. And the training that we received it integrated both the spirituality and the psychology together into some of the techniques that we used, which was really what really excited me about that training. So anyway, yeah, I did begin to integrate that and use that with other treatment models, and I really like it. I think hypnotherapy is where it's at, but I don't know. I'm going to get some more training in that area too. Jen, you've had some training in hypnotherapy, right?
Nope.
No, I thought okay, maybe that was somebody else. Yeah, somebody else was talking about wanting to get into some quantum hypnotherapy training, which definitely appeals to me for sure.
I do other energy work using the quantum field, but I don't have any hypnotherapy training.
Well, there's so many different ways that you can apply that. And which is one of the reasons why I think, I'm really excited about us all coming together, is really sharing about how we can do that, what works for us, and maybe learn from each other. And that might inspire each of us to kind of go out and get additional training or whatever, studying a book, whatever it might be. But yeah, I just love that. There's so many different ways that we can bring that into the work that we do. And starting off with the work that we do on ourselves too, right? That's super important. We all know this, right? All right, Occam, you done changing diaper or what?
Yep.
Nice.
Out in the studio.
What was that?
Oh, just that I'm out in the studio now, so all free and clear.
Okay, perfect.
Occam, how's your little one feeling? I saw on Facebook the other day you're posting your little one was under the weather.
Boy, it was rough. It was rough. He almost never gets sick like that, but it was 12 hours of constant vomiting, and he's never vomited more than 4 times his whole life. So at 9 years old, he just had his first stomach bout, and he is not good about being a patient in general, but I was really proud of him. Siri doesn't know, my son is on the severe level of the autism spectrum. And so he's nonverbal and he's 9 years old. And so when he started feeling like funny, he got up and like walked over to the corner. I was like, what are you doing? And he just, and so there was just, it was a mess. Lots of laundry. It was the best we could do to try to catch it, but he did really well. Like before, he's been like really fighting it and almost aspirating on it, but he just let it happen. It was very calm. Mom and I are very, we're just like, it's cool, bud. Okay. And so he responded really well to that. But yeah, 12 hours, then a little bit of a fever, and he's back to being just as precocious as ever.
I'm glad he's feeling
Thanks
better.
for asking. Thanks for asking.
They're so resilient, it seems they bounce back so much quicker than we do.
Yeah. The next day he was still happy as all go out, and me and mom are like zombies.
Well, cool. Well, I'm glad we were able to get together today, and was hoping we could have some good discussion. You guys have anything on your agenda that you would like to talk about that's you feel like you want to bring up or discuss?
I'm a bad guest. Yeah, I didn't even look at whether there was a topic for this or what. You just messaged and it was like, are you going to be there? And I was like, for you, I'll be there. And I did not look up to if there was an agenda, if there was I don't even know if I'm, what I'm doing here, but I'm here.
What were you going to say, Jen?
I'm open to talk about.
Yeah. Jen, what were you going to say?
I was saying the same thing as Occam. I wasn't sure if there was a topic.
Yeah, I think I just, I think I wrote in here, I'm trying to find my my post here real quick. Okay, I said, let's talk about the different ways.
To talk to.
What?
I just said you just been on the road too long. You needed somebody to talk to.
I've been writing a lot. There's been a lot of stuff flowing through, and I've just been writing and writing and writing when I get inspired. But yeah, it's kind of busy. You'd think that being on vacation and being on the road and being out in nature, that I'd have, 100% of my time connecting to nature and meditating, but no, it's like, where are we going next? Are we going to have internet? We have to unhook. We've been in Yellowstone for 4 days, and we've been all over the place. So it's been amazing. I'm just blessed to have been able to have this experience, but it's also time for me to really dig deep and try to figure out like how I want to show up in the world more. And so that's been good. And I've been using that time, like I said, to do a lot of journaling and writing. And so one of the topics that, keeps coming up to me is like this, using your intuition and really operating from that heart consciousness space when we are in this kind of work that we do in helping and facilitating healing in other people. That's just something that keeps coming up. So it's kind of the topic, it's kind of the topic of our group is how to integrate, universal spirituality, heart consciousness, intuition, and those sort of things into the work that we do. And I think that there's a lot that therapists and mental health professionals that have had that training can learn a lot from coaches. And I think that there's some things that perhaps that coaches could also learn from the structure that is in place, with the people that are in the mental health field and who are licensed or been to, school, whatever for that, the different training that we've had. So I know that there's a lot that we can learn from each other. And and most people know that I'm stepping away from more of that role as a therapist, and I'm moving more in the direction of being a life coach, because I'm detaching from labeling people, diagnosing, and looking at symptoms that we have that are really normal, as opposed to pathology, and I think that makes us more sick. So I'm really just changing my mindset around that. And I'm super excited about that. It's been in the works for several years, but so anyway, today, I think I had posted about our call, and then in the comments, I said, hey, let's talk about the different ways that we integrate heart consciousness, AKA intuition, AKA our spiritual higher selves, our energy, into the work that we do, coming from so many different backgrounds and training and experience that each of us has. That, I thought that would be a really good discussion, because I also feel like there are a lot of people like I was several years ago, where I was uncomfortable trusting that, and sometimes ignoring things that were coming up in the session that I wanted to say and shutting it down because, oh, that's not what a therapist is supposed to say. I'm supposed to be the expert and I'm supposed to like follow these guidelines and everything. So I really feel like there were a lot of missed opportunities with the people that I worked with by not sharing that guidance that was coming through to me. Gosh, I'm really bright. Am I too bright here? I look like
Can we ever be too bright?
I look blue. So anyway, I was hoping that we could maybe talk about that and just other people that might, decide to listen to our session here, our time together, that, might open them to think outside the box a little bit and to maybe usher in a little bit more of that intuitive flow in the process as we work with clients. So anyway, that's something that I thought, and I as we were driving here, I was taking a few notes, and there was a couple of things that were coming to mind that I thought I would like to possibly share if anybody was interested. And then I also want you guys to share about what that's like for you. Does that sound helpful? Is that something that you guys would want to talk about?
Sounds good, Beck.
Sounds good.
I love it.
All right. Awesome. Sure. So one thing I would say about this group, and whoever decides to listen to our recording of this time together, is I really put this group together because I wanted to have a place where we could feel comfortable sharing our open-mindedness and sharing some things that are maybe outside of the boundaries of our own belief system and possibly outside of the boundaries of each other's belief systems. And so, and it may make us uncomfortable at times, and we may disagree. And I just want everyone to know that it's okay to disagree, that we are not the same people, that we don't come from the same value system, belief system, programs, perceptions, et cetera, et cetera. And so I really want us to be comfortable to be able to share those things and question things, to really like ask ourselves, well, why is it like this? And do I have to do it that way? And really, what is best for my client? And what's best for me? And sometimes it's, for me, it was really scary and uncomfortable because there were no guideposts along the way in terms of this book or a mentor or anyone in my field that I felt like I could go to talk about some of these things that were coming through to me. And so I just want people to know that they're not alone. And I know through talking with all of you, I know a little bit about all of you, that you probably have all been there at some point in time, right? Where, we've been told it has to be done A, B, C, and D way, but, well, why does it have to be done that way? Who gets to decide that? So if you're listening to some things or you're reading some things in this group and you may be asking yourself, well, I'm not so sure this is really in alignment with what I want to do, that's perfectly fine. This doesn't have to be the right group for you. It doesn't have to be the right post. It doesn't have to be the right video or the right information. You have to follow your own heart and your own internal guidance and allow that to take you where it needs to. And that might mean you might not be in the group, or you may not want to be participating in these discussions, and that's perfectly fine too. I have no judgment towards anyone for that, but I'm not going to make myself small to make other people comfortable either. So I feel like I have to be in my truth. I have to explore these things, or I'm basically denying myself the freedom to really express and to allow what I believe is divine guidance to lead me to where I'm supposed to be. So that's kind of why I'm on this journey. So, one thing, Siri, remember, uncomfortability always precedes growth. Do you remember that?
I know. I do. That I really, really loved that one. I used that one for a long time.
Love it.
And even the reason that you created this group was the reason, well, one, I was thrilled to be invited because it's the same reason to be in a group with people who have different backgrounds, different educations, different places from which they came to do whatever their brand of healing or connecting or guiding people was. And not only the educations, but the books that have been read, the mentors that have been had, and their personal upbringings that all come into play for the map of the world. And just not even comparing, but sharing and being able to connect. And so, and say, hey, that doesn't resonate with me, what somebody's saying. But isn't that interesting? Why doesn't it resonate? Is it because I don't believe it? Or is it because I don't want to believe it? Or is it because I simply believe something else? And I remember you saying, didn't you say there were no guideposts, there were no mentors? And yet I feel that all the things that you said are your guideposts. Your intuition is actually your beacon that keeps leading you in the right direction. And being here with everybody that's going to be speaking up and saying something, everything that rings true with you is your next beacon and your next guidepost to lead you to the next step. And so I just love that I couldn't go and meet with my friend today because her house inspection didn't happen. So I was like, yay, I get to be here instead. And so there have been a whole series of events or things that have just said intuition, intuition. And I've had that on my year list. I mean, it's on there every year, but I'm really starting to pay attention to it in a different way and just go where my intuition is calling me to be. And always trusting that what I learn there is exactly what I need to learn for the next phase of growth. And so I like what's being created here. And the people it doesn't resonate with, like you said, that might not be a group for them, but you never know, or might be just where they need to be. So I just like meeting people, hearing of their different place and opinions. And actually, I would like to speak from my place in that it's not always easy for me to speak whatever my truth is if I fear that someone else will have a very different one in mind, and I don't know how to not defend, but how to really say, well, I believe something different, because I kind of morph my belief systems according to what other people say. I'm like, oh yeah, I can see that too. And I don't always know exactly what mine is. If someone else's, I was like, oh, that I'd like to try that on for size. So this will be a really great place for me to say, wow, I really don't believe that same thing. Thank you for pointing that out so I can really think about and resonate with what I do believe. So this will be a great place for me to practice knowing what I truly believe and speaking up for it, but not out of defense or a mechanism of that, but just for just knowing of self.
That's perfect. Yeah.
That's my commentary.
I love it.
Round one.
Yeah, we can all just kind of like stretch and just, test things and just try it on and see what it feels like and share. I don't care how off the wall your ideas are. I want to hear them. I want to hear it. I want to hear what it's about. Like, I can't even stand it. Like I look at things and I'm like, gosh, really? ADHD? Nah, I think it's a gift. I think these are gifts. And we've been programmed to believe otherwise, that we're abnormal, and we have all these gifts and these wonderful things that we come into this world with, and we're all so different. It's like, why can't we just start looking at it from a different perspective, from a different lens from how we were raised, a different lens as to how we were trained, just try it on for size and to see what we can come up with, because I really feel like being curious about things really allows us to be in a more centered and aligned place, because that curiosity and that creativity keeps us, I believe that keeps us more aligned with our intuition. So be curious, ask questions, think outside the box, right? Go against the grain. Like, I don't know, be, what is it? What's the word? Not stubborn. Push against the rules, what am I forget the word.
Rebel. You're a rebel.
A rebel. Be a rebel. We need to be rebels these days. We need to be a rebel.
I just purchased a domain name Monday, sacredrebel.com.
Oh my gosh, no, I love it. I love it. Good for you. That's a good one. Sacred Rebel. You are a rebel too, Jen. I know you are.
Yeah, I have a very rebel spirit.
Anyway, does anybody else have anything to add before I go into just talking about some of these points that I thought about today? Maybe it'll generate more discussion. I don't know. Does that sound good?
I mean, definitely interesting subject. And having not come from any particular modality or school of thought, I definitely have really leaned in to the unknown and to the unjustified and the outer edge of societal beliefs, and so I think it's really great that you're ready to step out of the restrictions of what you've been taught, because I think that's where, like, what you say, the discomfort precedes growth, right? So what a wonderful saying that is. Nothing ever happened because things were perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a wonderful space to be as far as bringing out something new. And I've had to really lean into that in my practice. It's definitely not somewhat like other things, but it's definitely not, you couldn't fit it into any one category per se. And being able to lean into my intuition and my confidence in not so much being right, but just knowing that nothing's wrong, because I wouldn't stand up and say I'm 100% right. My beliefs are more important than your beliefs. I really like the idea of what Siri was saying about I want to be able to speak my mind, and that is not negating your opinion. It's both, and there's room in this world for me to believe this and you to believe that. And if we come together, we might find out that we're both a little bit wrong, but we're both a little bit right, and find out where that spot is that we can join our efforts and hold each other up instead of pulling each other down. So I think the idea now in this time and era is to really stop being the label, stop being in the box, be that spiritual rebel, be that person who's going to step outside, do what they want to do, follow their heart, and know that you can stand in the middle of a group of people who are, saying you're wrong, but know that because you're following your heart, because you're connected to that God source from within, not something outside that you have to seek, but that true knowing of yourself that's connected to all things, that universal flow that creates all of existence. It's within you. There's galaxies and stars being destroyed and regrown. So too are the souls in your body, ever expanding, ever connected to everything, right? When you stand in that power, knowing that the same energy that created the universe created you, and therefore you have an innate understanding of your truth, regardless of how it is affected by the collective truth, right? And if we can get to the point where every single person, especially children,
Yes.
What could we do in 20 years if we could convince the kids to stand in their own truth and not to listen to the BS that their parents, their teachers, their religious leaders tell them, the politicians tell them? Our entire system is made to produce and breed a codependent society. And then we wonder why everybody's having codependency issues. My not my sole focus, but something that's really come up into my ideas of what I want to do as an overall arcing theme for my work is to really start to empower the kids in a codependency defense system. Interdependent information, interdependent success system that they can utilize to really be that person who can stand in the middle of a group of sheeple, or whatever you want to call them, and just know, above all things else, know that you are the strength, that you are the right, that you are the truth. Even if it comes up against somebody else's truth and they don't like it, if we can stand in our own truth and not be diminished, it's only a matter of time before the others lose their energy and lose their steam. Because I think that when we're tapped into that source, that core source, we actually are tapped into something far more powerful than fear or hate or separation or disgrace. By being tapped into love of ourselves and love of others. And if we're always acting from that point of love, which is an intuitive sense. It's not something that you can learn in a book. It's not something that you can say, I went to a training and therefore I know how to love this person so unconditionally that I'm open to what they need. It's something that you really have to be in yourself with and understand that, like, if I'm always acting from the point of space where I want to be doing the best thing for this person that I'm interacting with, that I'm facilitating for, that I'm carrying through the struggles, then that's where we can gain our strength and the solidity to stand on and understand that, like, it doesn't matter what we've been trained, because what's in our heart is constantly training us, constantly moving us forward. And that may be, like, I may come up against something in a session today that will make me completely negate or be opposing to what I said in a session yesterday. And as long as it's in my heart, I know that's still right, like, right? Because each individual person can have an independent truth. And so knowing that each individual person has a truth, it gives me the ability to stand in my truth, see them for their truth, and not try to judge or control it. So I think it's the most powerful thing we could do in any circumstance, any methodology or science, is to really lead with the heart and follow that initial instinct, despite what anybody else may think.
Perfectly said. Like it. Yeah, it seems like, I was going to say, when we are in our truth, I'm going to see, a lot of times when you're in your truth and you're being guided by your higher mind, your higher self, your higher consciousness, it may not always make sense. Like you said, you may say one thing one day and something you might say contrary to that the next day. And it may not make sense to the people around you. But if you're truly in your, following your inner guidance, then it doesn't matter. But you know what? When that happens, that's when we question ourselves. And that's when we shut it down. Or somebody says, well, that's not what you said yesterday to me or to that person. It made me think about an example. I'll share with you an example. It made me think about, I used to be social work supervisor for the Department of Human Services in Iowa. And I was covering a termination of parental rights hearing case for one of my staff that couldn't be there for some reason. And the judge stopped the hearing in the middle of the hearing and pulled me into chambers in the back and was basically scolding me for having a different recommendation than a family that we had been in court for the week before. And she's like, well, why would you recommend this instead of that? And I was just like, it's like, you can't just follow this cookie cutter, like, well, it has, you have to be guided by your intuition too. Because everybody's different. Every situation is different. But it made me think about that. But what it did is it kind of shut me down. Like, well, maybe I'm not competent. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. And how many times do we allow other people to shut down our intuition because of that? Or we shut it down ourselves because we don't trust it anymore. And one other thing that you were saying, Occam, that it all resonated with me, but one thing that I wanted to also say is about kids, that you want to work with children and helping them learn how to stand in that internal guidance and not be codependent, like learning how to not be codependent in their life. My thing too is I believe you have to work with the parents though. We got to work with the professionals. We got to work with the parents and the teachers and all those people, because honestly, in this world, kids don't have rights. So when they are rebellious, what's going to happen to them? They get smacked down. They get labeled. They get taken to therapy. They end up going, they get labeled as a bad kid or as a child with conduct disorder or something, and so I think we also need to really train the adults, and it has to start with the adults. We have to be the ones that help the children understand it's okay to be who you are, and to normalize that instead of pathologizing that every time. Does that make sense? I mean, that's just something that came to me when you were talking.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% on, and I would like to do the parents first, obviously, or the parents in a conjunction. It doesn't have to be one and then the other, or one or the other. But I mean, speaking for myself, like I was a victim of sexual molestation when I was young, And if I had have been able, if someone had have told me the rights that I have about my body and the rights that I was feeling that it was wrong, despite what the adult was telling me, I may have been able to speak up about it to other adults. You know, that's just an extreme case, of course. There's so many cases in schools and other things where children speak up and all of a sudden they're labeled, oh, that's just a difficult kid, or you're a weird kid, or you're a problem kid. And yeah, if we could reach the teachers and the parents and really start to, I mean, that's how we reach the kids, right? Like that's how we reach the kids, is by getting people in the position. I can't talk to every kid. We need a situation where teachers and care providers and parents and grandparents even can be educated in how to really talk to their kids. I mean, I'm learning so much right now about subconscious programming, you know, mostly by going through my own stuff, but I am in a program where we do a lot of trauma work and trauma transmutation. And a lot of that comes down to subconscious programming, the beliefs that we make about ourselves in moments of trauma, regardless of whether it's the truth, right? So like a mother telling her kid that she can't afford new shoes because she needs to have food first. And like all of a sudden that kid has this imprint of like, oh, I'm not worth new shoes. Whereas if we were able to talk to that adult and say, look, these kids are more complex. You can't just expect them to sit down and shut up. And I mean, my son being nonverbal, I guess, is maybe what brought my attention to this more than anything, is like, there's so many different aspects of communication. There's what they see, there's what we're telling them, and then there's what they hear, which can be completely different from what we're telling them. Some of my traumas, which have held me back, actually came from well-intentioned beliefs that my mom was trying to place on me, but then we're still limiting beliefs. So if we can like start to educate everybody about how to communicate with each other, especially with children, in a way that is not just this because I say so. You know, we get into that because I said. Like, I don't know how many times I heard that when I was growing up. Because I said so, because I said so, because I said so. Versus if my mom and my grandma were actually take the time and say, look, here's why. I know that you're having this feeling. I know that you have this desire. And I'm not shutting you down because you're not worth experiencing that desire, but it's because of A, B, and C. And there's different ways to handle it. And like, how can we work around this? You know, there's just so many ways that we need to be able to communicate honestly and wholly. And if we do it all from the heart with an open mindset, then it's going to do us a lot better than just this kid's a bad kid, put it in the corner, or this kid's a trouble kid, or this kid's a depressed kid. Even like being told you're a depressed kid, like maybe you're just sad in the moment. Maybe you're having a completely justifiable response to some trauma situation that you're exposed to. And maybe there's something that we can handle in that so that you don't go on to be a depressed adult. Or you know, and like, I guess I've been diving a lot into the Gabor Mate and just understanding that like all of our problems as adults, all of our addictions and stuff, at least 90% of them come from our childhood issues, our childhood beliefs, and our childhood abandonment and lack issues. And so if we could just figure out a way to change society on a whole, that, and I think the best thing that describes it is that holistic, right? Like it's in the name of the group, like this holistic way, like how you said, like, okay, why can't I give one recommendation for this family and a different recommendation for this family? Those two families aren't in the same socioeconomic space. They're not in the same, you know, geological space or geographic space, you know, like they're not in the same headspace. Why would we consider them to be the same? And that's unfortunately what our system has come to, especially post-war and the industrialization era, is like, sit in this box, do this thing, answer these questions, don't think. You know, our education system doesn't teach us to think, it teaches us to regurgitate. And so we're not being wise about ourselves. We're not understanding what we have inside of us that we can bring forward if we honor our beliefs, if we honor our thoughts, and if we honor our feelings. Instead, it's just like, no, sit down, shut up, do this, answer questions 1 through 50, A, B, C, D. Instead of like, is there another way to expand? And I think that's where we're going to really see the growth in the future, is when we can step outside this box. And thank goodness for COVID. You know, I mean, like, I'm super thankful for this pandemic. I've lost people. I know people have lost people, and that's not a really popular thing to say, but if it did nothing else, it's shown us two things. We are not individuals who are on different parts of the planet with different needs. We're all human. We all have the same base needs. And two, we do not have to continue going on like we were yesterday. And that goes for whether you're wearing masks or whether you're not, or whether we're subject to a pandemic or whether we're moving past a pandemic. Like, I'd like to see us move to a new normal. Like, if we've seen how fast in a year and a half we can change our beliefs and our actions and our societal effects on each other, there's no reason that we can't take that same effort and move it towards moving our education system, our judicial system, and our religious systems into a new way of inclusion and holisticness, as opposed to totalitarian, move into a holistic state where each individual person is identifying as a whole. And that's, I think, what we need to focus on. And so I love what you're doing with matching all those different aspects up into a new thing, New things are great. I love new things. Nothing says that tomorrow has to be like yesterday. And I think that the more people get into the idea that tomorrow doesn't have to be like yesterday, it can go for personal traumas, family traumas, and social traumas. And I love conversation. I just had a really great conversation with some really strict Christians the other day. Mm-hmm. They said they weren't into Reiki because they were Christians. And I started talking to them about, well, I'm a Christian too. I do what Christ does. And it was really a really productive conversation because neither one of us was trying to convince the other that we were wrong. We were just talking about what our beliefs were and kept it in that realm of like, this is just what I believe. I'm not saying you have to believe it.
Yeah.
It's alternate realities for each of us.
Yeah, I love that. I also go into, I call it just a talking trance. I was like, oh, sorry. I was just off talking and I was like, I didn't even know what I was talking about. But I always like listening. I was with you the whole time, taking it all in. It's in the psyche.
Me too.
That was reminding me of when my mom lived about an hour and a half away. A group of Jehovah's Witnesses came to the door and they wanted to talk to her. And she says, well, I'm happy to hear what you have to say, but you're going to have to make an appointment. Like you have to come here when like I'm ready to talk. And they came back in an actual time, and then they came in and they had just a full conversation. And it was the same sort of thing that you were saying, like, oh, well, here's what I believe and here's what I believe. But there wasn't a judgment. There wasn't a discourse. It was just listening freely and being able to share those thoughts. And that was really great.
Yeah. My mom invited some Mormons over to dinner one time, and she said, oh, I'm more than happy to listen to what you have to say, but you're going to have to listen to what I have to say too. And we were already in the Science of Mind church. And I'm pretty sure at least one of those boys left with his mind a little bit twisted after my mom got done with him.
I feel like that's the space that I'm in a lot in sessions with clients, is like, you're working with people who have programming. I mean, we all have programming, not to say that we're excluded from that, but you're working with people's programming and programming that's created like the neurosynaptogenesis of trauma. And you hold space so they feel safe enough that you can walk them through the course of challenging their programming. And some of that challenging comes when you share your belief and how it's different from theirs, but still respect theirs. But they now have trust in you enough that they're available to listen to another point of view. And I really feel like that's a large part of therapeutic work.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I agree.
Definitely.
What you were saying before, Occam, was that you want to work with the kids. And I also agree that's a great thing. And working with the parents and the teachers, even those one conversation with one kid is planting the seed for them to realize, oh, they could look at life differently. And maybe they're 16, and by the time they're 18 and they go forth in the world and they're making their own decisions, they're like, you know what? I remember that one thing that was said to me, and it's very different than what I grew up with. I'm going to test that out. I'm going to find out more about that. But without the planting of the seeds, that never would have been available to them. So I just think, of course, the parents could use some planting of seeds as well, and the teachers. But it's what people choose to do with those.
And then the seeds get watered, and we all plant a seed, we nurture it, we water the seed. We all have a different role. One of the things I was thinking about too, when Occam was talking, and then your response here, Siri, about that, or both of you, Jen, also is, now I lost my train of thought because I'm worried about losing internet again. Okay. I know what I was going to say. When you were talking about, in the classrooms, teaching we should be teaching kids this information from the very beginning, is what yes feels like inside of you. Like, how do you learn how to know the truth inside of you for you? But we shut that down, and my question is why aren't we teaching that? Like, who are these people that are making the decisions, the Board of Education, the Department of Education on a federal level, to decide what the curriculums look like? Who is leaving this out? This is universal information. That's been around for thousands of years. Why are they keeping that from us? Why are they hiding that information from us? Why would we not keep that, open that up, help children open that part of them up and nurture it and normalize it? But no, it gets shut down. It gets labeled. Oh, okay. So I was diagnosed with ADHD as an adult. I went and got tested. I was very curious. I saw some symptomatology that was very similar with, some other people. And so I wanted to know, you're just such a daydreamer. You're always out in space and you're not paying attention. No, I'm connecting to something that you can't see, and you're just shutting it down inside of me, right? Like, you can't sit still in your seat. Why is that? That's because I've got all this energy flowing, and I'm active, and I'm kinesthetic. I'm not an auditory learner. I'm not an auditory communicator, which is what mostly is taught in school. And I know, Jen, you probably got some input to say about this because you work in the school system. But why is that being why are we being directed away from that, intuitive gift that we're given and labeling it? Well, I know the answer, but that's one of the questions I started asking myself, which allowed me to just come more into my awareness and to start to see what's really happening in the world around me. And it's a hard place to be in too, when you realize that.
I want to hear what Theory has to say for sure, but I just want to say, like, those questions, who and why, like, that'll get my conspiracy boat running real quick.
Mine too.
When you go down,
I'm like, because we're in spiritual war. I know. We're in a spiritual war. They want us shut down.
I know.
Too powerful for awake.
It's not a conspiracy theorist. It's a conspiracy
Control.
realist, is what it is.
Yeah.
This is real shit, people.
Conspiracy theorists are now just spoiler alerts. Like, that's where we've come to. Like, it's just a spoiler alert. The difference between a conspiracy theorist and a spoiler alert is 6 months at this point. We're going through time so fast, but it's all about control, isn't it? I mean, and I totally want to hear what Siri has to say too, but basically it comes down to, like, a population that thinks freely or a population that questions authority.
Same thing, isn't it?
Or I mean, a question, that does not question authority. That's what I mean to say. Yeah.
There you go. I was like, wait a minute, I question authority. I do. I'm both. Wait a minute. Yeah.
It's an intentional shutting down of the light. They want us disconnected from God consciousness, the universe, whatever it is that, terminology you ascribe to in your belief system, because we can't be used as tools in their machines if we're woke up and connected to our Godhead.
Exactly. We can't be controlled.
I was thinking that how much, I suppose, if you were to do percentages of the people that are actually doing what you're saying, like trying to control and not allow the divine to speak, and why are they trying to hide it or keep it hidden? But I think there's even more people that don't even know that it's there, or that they're hiding something because they just think the other way is the only way, because they don't even know there's another option.
Exactly.
So which is, I think there's so many people that have no concept that there's choice in their life to do it a different way. And I think
Bingo.
With the school system, but I know nothing about the school system except for that I went to school and I was there. But I don't know, who's actually got their hand on it, the system, or who doesn't even know that there's an option.
Right. Exactly. Well, the thing is the more that we each stand in our truth and our authenticity and are led and guided by our higher power. That's one of the very few things that we can do that I think makes a difference. You just have to continue to keep standing in that intuition, standing in your power, and being guided by your heart consciousness and the people around you. I mean, it doesn't, not like, oh, I want to set an example because I want people to follow me. It's no, I want you to know that it's okay to do the same thing if you feel led to, that it's okay to do that. It's nothing wrong with that. It's not abnormal. It doesn't mean that you're a rebel. Well, maybe you are a little bit, but you know, but yeah, that's, wow. Good discussion, guys. Well, we're at 3:55 right now. Do you want to wrap up in the next 5 minutes? I had a whole list of things I was going to talk about. I didn't even get to, just like last time, which is fine because, you know, we need to allow the conversation to be guided the way that it's supposed to be. So I had nothing really, no expectations of what we were going to talk about other than intuition.
It's nice of you to try and keep this organized for the group while you're traveling, Becky, as I look at your still photo.
Yeah, well,
I'm looking at your eyes or not. I'm just looking at your photo.
yeah, let me see if I can put because I can see you guys, but if I put myself up, then you guys freeze. But yeah, there I am. I'm still here. The video is messed up. So yeah, I mean, maybe let's tell me a couple, if you guys want to go around one more time and each person kind of share a couple ways that you use your intuition in your sessions and your appointments with your clients. Like, how do you bring like heart consciousness into the work that you do? Like, what are some things that you specifically do?
Personally for me, I always invite spirit in. So I have like I have a ritual that I do both like at the beginning of every workday and then at the end of every workday so at the beginning I call in whoever I need to call in from my team. And then I call in energy from my clients' teams. And then at the end of the day, I have like a clearing ceremony where I release whatever energy is holding on, you know, from my clients during the day. And I ask for guidance, you know, to becoming that I be doing work that's in the highest good of my clients, and that spirit be guiding me in that. And I tune in very often during session 2. Sometimes I'll just say to my client, okay, just give me a second. I just need to take a breath and I need to tune in. And I just wait for messages to come through. And one of the things I'm really good at as a therapist is holding space for people's ugly. You know, like I can love people through all of the darkness because I know it just comes from trauma. But in order to transmute trauma, there's a lot of accountability work that needs to be done. And sometimes people get afraid of accountability work because when someone challenges them to accountability, it feels like judgment. And I think that's one of the gifts that my intuitive sense of myself provides me, is that I'm able to sit in a space asking for accountability and not making people feel like they're being judged in that process.
Nice.
And that comes from spirit. I think
yeah,
that is not like a skill I developed. That's a God-given, it's God's gift to me to help people transmute trauma, which is really why I'm here. Like I'm absolutely 100% certain in all my years of meditating that I am right in my element. I'm totally in my flow. I am a 5D person here for 3D work. And I don't bypass that. I have no intention of spiritually bypassing. I've tried to do that. Flowy spirits are not for me. I don't really like the smell of incense. It's not my jam. It's other people's jam, and that's great, but it's just not mine. Like I am here to be in the mud with people. And that's where I'm comfortable, is being in the muck and the mud and the dirty. And that's all from spirit. I give all grace to God on that.
beautiful. Well, we need more of that. And I think the more that we can individually as being a healing professional, whatever that walk of life is for you, whether you know, you're a quantum healer, whatever, you're therapist, mental health professional, coach, I don't care what that is, like the more that you step into that guidance and you're connected and you're aligned and centered and in the flow, that you're going to be able to like take your clients to that place, you know. But if you're in this line of work and you're not working on yourself, you're just going to constantly hit a brick wall. It's really not going to work very well for you, or you're going to be exhausted. You know, it's exhausting because you're trying to take all of your energy, right, and you have this empty cup that you're trying to like utilize to help other people. Well, you're gonna burn out really fast. And I think that's why people burn out so much, you know, too.
Yeah, it's also exhausting because when you don't come from heart or intuition, you tend to intellectualize everything. I've met a lot of therapists who do that. They just intellectualize the shit out of everything. And I just want to be like, drop into your heart space.
Right, because that's the
You're
mind,
working too hard. Your wheels are spinning too much.
right? That's the mind, and then it's not the heart consciousness. So you're exactly right. And that's kind of what I try to do before my session, is really just taking myself into heart consciousness. And then I call in the Holy Spirit to be present and to assist in the healing process for the person's highest and greatest good. I haven't been as good as I should be in being consistent in guiding my client into their heart consciousness next. So guiding myself into heart consciousness, teaching other people how to do that, guiding them into heart consciousness, asking them if they would like to we could call in their guides and their support, whether that be ancestors or angels or fill in the blank for them. I have not been consistent, but I know that when I have done it, it's made such a profound effect on the outcome of the session that I've had with clients. So doing a lot of breath work and meditation, and doing some trance inductions to help them get into a more relaxed state so that we can access the unconscious mind, bypass the conscious mind, and to be able to really access some of the limiting beliefs and different things that are there. So yeah, breathing into your heart, meditation, clearing space, setting the intention for the session, intuitively guiding that. And let's see, what else? Noticing when I move out of my alignment, noticing as soon as that happens and trying to bring it back in. And yeah, that takes a lot of work. It's like working a muscle. So when you start feeling overwhelmed, anytime you start feeling overwhelmed, or you're trying to think about what you're going to say next while the client's talking, which means that you're really not listening and means that you're really not in alignment, feeling insecure or incompetent in that moment is also not heart consciousness. Being eager to tell the client what to do and like you're the expert of them. No, the client is always the expert of themselves. We are not the expert. We're there to facilitate and guide, but we should not be telling people what they should do. We should always give choice. If you have an opinion or a judgment, like if you have a judgment at any moment, then you're not in heart consciousness. You're judging. And paying attention to how the session is going and how it's affecting you is countertransference. And to me, I feel like countertransference is one of the best ways that we can, that the coach and the clinician is able to understand some of the deeper aspects of themselves that they need to go and start working on and heal. I mean, after each session, take a note, like, what did they feel like? Oh, I felt like this when she talked about that. Well, maybe you need to explore that, because all that's going to do is facilitate your healing so that you can be a better therapist and better coach. And you're going to be able to sit and be with and hold space for that client in those moments more than being reactive, right? Saying that you understand, you don't really understand. Even if you're working with someone who's gone through a similar trauma that you have, you really don't understand their situation fully. and you can never, I mean, I've always learned to just not say I understand, but why do we say that? We always seem to say that. Oh, I understand. Yeah. No, you don't. Yeah. And feeling overwhelmed and anxious too. Like I said before, I think that's a good indication that you're not in heart consciousness. So those are some of the things that I think about, to be able to like just paying attention to what's going on internally, to know when I'm coming out of alignment and when I need to take myself back in. Like you said, Jen, you like, give me a second, let me just take a deep breath. It's right. Making sure that you're in alignment, making sure that information that's coming through in that moment is coming from the right space, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, that was my spiel. Who else wants to share?
Good spiel. I can piggyback off of what you both said. There is equal times of realizing that I'm out of alignment or I'm intellectualizing something as opposed to just being there. And when I'm aware that I'm creating a question before their thought is even completed, I'm aware of when I'm out of alignment. And then I can also recognize being in that space when there is reason for pause and that there's just quiet space and I don't need to fill it with something, and knowing that that's the correct trust of my own intuition. And then whatever question comes from that, or whatever they may say next, because we don't know exactly which is the right one, that it's usually that question that they go, huh, I never thought of that. But I need to breathe and just know, because I used to fill in all the spaces. And taking pause in my own life is where I find the best, juiciest stuff. I also I'm really comfortable when people are feeling deep experiences, and also in that space when they're saying, I've only shared this with you. I really don't share this with anyone else. I'm not a therapist. I'm a coach, and people come to me, but it is interesting that also deciding when they're going to be okay with that accountability and how to phrase it in a way that it's going to be received. And also trusting that they know how to set their own speed of what they want to do or who they want to be next. And that some people will just go leaps and bounds quickly, and people they will decide for themselves what their next challenge is. I said, what would you like to do this next week? What would you like to pay attention to or bring it to your awareness? And it's usually something so small. And I would have given them something different, but you're correct in that they know what's best for them. They know what the next steps are, and to just guide them. So just being in my own space allows them to be in their own space, and just being there and witnessing is the best experience.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, isn't it?
It is lovely, isn't it?
It's like it is really, it's amazing. It's an amazing opportunity to witness some of these experiences that people share with you. It's just like, some things that they would never tell anybody, and it's just, yeah, it's very humbling, and yeah,
Sacred, very sacred.
yeah, it is sacred. Occam?
Yeah. Well, you guys pretty much covered it all. Pretty much covered it all. That basically, same thing like Jennifer, I like to do that pre-day session, then also with the client. So it's a mutual agreement for the client to move into that space and call on that Christ consciousness. And I call on the Buddha consciousness too. I call on the Mother Mary and the Mary Magdalene. I get as many of those pure high vibration voices in the room as I can have, because I know that I'm not the all-knowing, all-seeing, but I'm tapped into that, and being in that mind space and making the conscious effort to say, I check my ego at the door. Like, I want this session to be a place of your space, of absolute lack of judgment, absolute unconditional love, and absolute lack of ego. And so I know that if, like you said, if I'm getting triggered or if I'm having an opinion, then I know that that's my own trauma. And I do get work for that too. Like I would never trust somebody who doesn't say they have their own coach or they have their own therapist, you know, because it's like we're all, every day is growing for each of us. And I personally, I go get work done monthly just to make sure that I'm tuned up to my best potential for my clients. And yeah, just knowing that, like you said, if you're judging, then that's not the pure space to be in. If you're analytical, that's not the pure space to be in. But taking that conscious effort, I think, is the most important thing. And you guys all really summed up everything that I think we should instill in people when they're communicating, not just in sessions, like when we're communicating with people on the street, like that lack of judgment, that understanding that things get dirty. And you're right, I don't understand. And it's okay. Things have been shitty, and that's perfect too. And it's all for the better because it's got you to where you are, you know. And when we can hold that kind of mentality of just understanding that it's all good, man, it's all good, and we're, if it's not good, we're gonna get through it. And I really do feel that same thing. Like when I've gotten to the point where someone knows, and even they'll say, like, I've had clients say, like, I don't know why I'm saying this. I've never told anybody else this. Sometimes guys usually are the ones who are always, the women are always like, I know why I haven't said this before. The guys will be like, I don't know why I have the urge to say this. It's like, because you've never had the option before. Because you've never been in a space where you could speak your mind without being called this or that or being judged for this or that. And as coaches, as therapists, if you want to call it that, as people who are helping others work through their trauma, the best thing we can do is be separate from our trauma, even if it's just in that moment, to be completely selfless and act from the heart. I consider the heart the cauldron of truth. When it comes through the heart burns off those lies, it burns off those judgments, and it burns off that ego. So when I'm in a session with someone, I'm always checking in. Am I really thinking, speaking, hearing from my heart? Am I listening from my heart? Am I speaking from my heart? And that's how I try to stay in spirit and in centered pureness, if you would say. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that metaphor, the cauldron of truth.
Yeah.
That's a good metaphor.
Yeah, what did you say? The heart burns off ego. What were the other two things that it burned? I liked whatever those three were.
Fear and judgment.
Fear and judgment.
Ego, lies, fear, judgment. You know, everything, when you're tapped into source above and you're tapped into Mother Earth below, and you're allowing those energies to really coalesce in that heart space before you speak, then that's where the cauldron, that's like the heart is the fire. You know, a lot of times you see that flaming heart symbol. And I believe that's because the heart is the cauldron of truth. All lies, judgment, and fears burn off if we're thinking, listening, and speaking with our heart.
And Jesus is pointing there in so many of those pictures, right? Is he pointing to his heart? Yeah. But for numerous reasons, I'm sure. But you know, first of all, the answers are here. This is where you find him, too. Mm-hmm. But all the resources are inside, not outside of you. And yeah. You guys, this was so much fun. I just love talking to you guys.
Love you too.
I feel at home. I feel like we can all just be who we are and just, I don't know, just feel comfortable really. Like I said, testing the boundaries of our own belief systems. I like to do that. I like to ask questions.
I know when you said that, for some reason, I thought at the beginning of this conversation, it was going to be like different aspects that we would all be bringing to the table, but it turns out we're all in it for the spirit. We're all in it for the collective, and we're all in it for transmuting that trauma and not getting stuck in our own heads. So it's awesome to be coming from so many angles, but seeing the same destination.
Exactly.
Yep. I feel like it's like three different paths, like a bunch of people on different path branches, but the destination, we're all going to end up in the same place. You know, when we did that, and it's like the higher intention, they're all the same. We might call them all something different. They might look different, but the feeling and the end result is ultimately kind of the same. So I love that. Yay.
I do too. Well, I'm going to have to go in and edit this. It's going to take me some time to get care of, but I'm going to go in and edit this. If you guys would like me to make this public on YouTube, I think I have to in order to like link it into our group. So hope that's not a problem.
I'm okay with that.
for you. If
I'm
you
okay
want
with
to give me the link to your website or how people can find you, I want people to start being able to find you if they want to work with you. So I want, if you would like to send me that information, so it's easy for me to cut and paste it, and you can just send me a message. And I'm not sure where I'm going to be this time next month. I think I'm going to be at the Grand Canyon or somewhere like in Arizona. I'm not sure yet, but if I can get something
How
scheduled
glorious.
when I get back to El Paso, I would like to do this more often, like maybe every other week instead of once a month. So if you guys find value in that and you like these discussions, then I would certainly love to keep scheduling that.
Yeah, we might even get to your list.
I went over some things already because I was talking about what does it look like when you're an ego, and assuming you're the expert, and then I kind of went over a little bit of that stuff. But it's okay, no worries.
Great. I'll just keep my eyes peeled for whenever the next one is, and if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, I meant to watch it from the outsider instead of being in the middle of it, and that's all good. However it is, it is.
And so it'll probably be a Friday because most people said they needed Fridays in the afternoon. So I'll try to keep it that way, but I can also do a weekend sometime. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I think, somebody else was talking about like maybe doing it on a weekend, or maybe we can do one on a weekend and one on a weekday. Maybe take turns going back and forth. But all right, you beautiful people, much love to you all, and thank you.
Holler when you're through town, Becky.
Oh, look at the love. Look at her t-shirt. See,
Is that
love.
backwards to you guys, or is it just backwards for me?
Nope.
It's backwards for you. It's
Okay,
forward for
okay.
us.
Yay, okay.
It says
Just
love.
wanted to
It's
share that
all
with
about love. It really
Yeah.
is all about love and compassion. It has to start
Let
within.
me know when you get to Oregon.
Oh yes, we're gonna meet up for coffee, and that's gonna be
The hard stuff.
like September 10th. But if I have to wear a mask when I'm outside, I don't know if I'm gonna stay in Oregon for very long, but we'll see.
No, people around here carry guns, not masks.
We'll fit right in there then. But anyway, I look forward to catching up with each of you guys. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day and have a good weekend.
Bye, everybody.
Stay in your heart. All right.
Love you, Becky. Love you, Jennifer. Nice to meet you, Siri. Love you too.
Nice to meet you both.
Love y'all.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.